Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch TV. With you is teacher Emis Njabani, a teacher of English and Literature, an examiner as well as an author. This session, we are going to look at guidelines for answering paper 2 questions. What are some of the tips? What are some of the do's and the don'ts that a student should have before sitting for English paper 2 exam? First of all, what are the components of English paper 2 exam? The paper 2 has 4 sessions and it has a total of 80 marks. So it's also supposed to be done in 2.5 hours. So the first section is supposed to be a passage or unseen comprehension. It is referred to as unseen comprehension because it is assumed that it is a comprehension that a student has never interacted with or has never seen. That is why it is called unseen comprehension, or in layman's terms, it is also referred to as a passage. Now, a passage has 20 marks in total. So when answering the passage questions, what are some of the questions that you would expect, or how should a student approach certain kind of questions that hardly miss in a comprehension part? So first of all, there is always what we call comprehension questions, just like the section suggests. Comprehension questions is whereby the answers are right there in the passage for the learner to just pick and answer the given question. Those are called comprehension questions, and they're the majority in this section. Now, when you come across a comprehension question, there are 2 ways you can write your answer or you can present your answer. One of the ways is you go through the passage, you read or you see where the answer comes from, and then you read that part and then you paraphrase. Paraphrasing our learners means that you write the answer to that question using your own words, not the words in the passage. That is one way of writing your answer. Writing the answer using your own words, what we call paraphrasing. The second way is lifting the answer. You can read the passage, see where the answer to question 1 comes from. Maybe it's paragraph 1 or paragraph 2, and then you lift the answer word for word as it is in the passage. In such a situation, you ensure that you capture everything and you don't write the answer halfway for you to get a full mark. I'll give an example of what I mean with a comprehension from our guru. You can check later, Top Notch Guru. That is page 140, passage 1, question 1. If you check later, you'll see that I'm not going to read the passage, but the first question is, according to the writer, what is the source of happiness? The passage is titled Happiness. So according to the writer, what is the source of happiness? That is a comprehension question, and the answer is right there in the passage. So a student can decide to just directly lift the answer as it is in the passage. For example, in the first paragraph, you're told happiness arises largely from the mental qualities of contentment, confidence, serenity, and active goodwill. Actually, that is the answer. So a student, that question carries 2 marks. A student who lifts that statement as it is from the passage also scores. That is what I mean by talking about the lifting method. Paraphrasing also means that you can read that, interpret it in your own words, and then you put or you write the answer in your own words. Both ways are okay and both ways score. Another kind of question that you come across, or you are most likely going to come across when answering comprehension questions, is a question on summary writing or note making. Summary writing or note making. So if you're brought a question on summary writing, summarize in about these words, summarize this and this and this. What are some of the things that is expected from, that are expected from you as a student? So the first thing is always ensure that your answer is written in prose form. We are talking about summary, our learners, not note making. Summary writing, ensure your answer is in prose form. Do not write in point form. If your answer is presented in point form, yet you're answering a summary question, you're going to lose 50% of your marks. So prose form. Another thing that you should check, our learners, is the word limit. A summary question always comes with a word limit. So if a question tells you in not more than 60 words, in not more than 60 words, it means that marking will stop at the 60th word. So you can't go beyond the 60th word. So because the question says in not more than, but if a question says in about 60 words, there is an allowance of a few words after the 60th word. It can be 2 marks, it can be 3 marks, it can be 5 marks. So if you're stuck and you have 2 extra words to go, it's still okay. So note those words that are used in setting the summary question: in not more than, in about, these words. And don't take the word limit lightly, because marking actually stops where the word limit, where the examiner gets to the word limit or the last word. So don't write your answer in 80 words if you had been asked to write in 60 words. So that is in summary. Remember, the first one we said prose form, the second one observe the word limit. Now point number 3, we are going to look at grammatical errors. Be keen on grammatical errors because they are penalized at this level, at this stage, at this question. Grammatical errors are penalized, and they are penalized per sentence, sorry. So every sentence is penalized once. If you make errors like spelling, agreement errors, tense, any error, even if it's punctuation, it is penalized what we call a clincher or a quarter mark. So a quarter mark might sound like it's something very minimal, but imagine that your answer had 4 sentences, and each of those sentences had a grammatical error. So you're penalized a quarter for each sentence. At the end of it all, you have lost 1 full mark, because a quarter times 4 will give us 1 full mark. So that's one thing you should check before you submit your paper, that your summary answer does not have grammatical errors. Another thing you should check is the draft copy. You are always given space for the draft copy or the rough copy, as well as for the fair copy. If you start by writing the rough copy and time ends without you writing the fair copy, it's okay. Don't cross it out. The rough copy will end up being marked. So what am I trying to say? Because you have been given spaces for both answers, where you do your rough work or your planning in the rough copy, and where you transfer your actual answer in the fair copy, there is no need to cross out, because it might work to your advantage. So don't be in a hurry to cross it out, just leave it at that. Now, when I talked about the second question, I talked about note making. I said summary writing stroke note making. Now, note making is a different question altogether, because you're supposed to number your answers. Unlike summary writing, where we were using prose form, in this case, you're supposed to number your answers. Failure to do so, and you present your answer in prose form, then half of the marks still go. You're penalized for using prose form. So it's the opposite of summary writing. Also, ensure that you observe grammar rules. Another question that can come under comprehension is grammar questions. Grammar questions, no matter where they appear, should always follow grammar rules. Start with a capital letter if it's a declarative statement, and with a full stop. If it's a question, start with capital letter, end with a question mark. Where you're supposed to have a capital letter should be a capital letter. Where you're supposed to start the small letter, it should be a small letter. All grammar rules are supposed to be observed in every grammar question, regardless of where the grammar question appears. Another question that can be set, now we are at question number 5, is tone, mood, and attitude. You can be asked, what is the attitude of the author towards this subject matter? For example, here in this this comprehension that we have here, the one I used as an example to how you can lift an answer, you can be asked, what is the author's attitude towards happiness? And you get that from the comprehension given. You're able to know if the author is critical, if the author is disapproving, whatever it is. But remember, we use adjectives. So you can also be asked, what is the tone of the author, or what is the tone of the person? If it's a comprehension that has characters, what is the tone of this person throughout the comprehension? So it's also a question that features under passage or comprehension section. Another one is paraphrasing. Earlier on, I explained what paraphrasing is, and that can be brought as a separate question. You might be given a statement from the comprehension, and then you're told, paraphrase this statement. Or you can also be asked, paraphrase paragraph 3, paraphrase the last paragraph of the comprehension. The secret to this, our learners, is don't use the words in the comprehension. Don't use the words in the given sentence. Ensure like 100% you have used your own words. That's what it means by paraphrasing. You write your own understanding, don't repeat the words in the comprehension. And then the last question that never misses is the meaning of words and phrases. Now, this is one question that is mostly underrated by the students, but our learners, I want you to know that this is a very important question because it generally carries 8 to 10 marks throughout paper 2. Because you find this question in the comprehension, you still come across it in the exact, and you still find it in question 3, if whether it's poetry or oral narrative. And if in every question it has 3 marks, that is 9 marks out of the total 80 marks in paper 2. So from today, we should stop underrating this question because it is a question that carries lots of marks. So meaning of words, when writing the answer, these are some of the things that you should put into mind or put into consideration. One is the word class. Your answer should be in the same word class as the word given. If the word you've been given, explain the meaning of the following words as used in the comprehension, and the first word you've been given is a noun, your answer should also be in the same word class, should also be a noun. If the word you've been given is a verb with ing adding, your answer should also be a verb with ing adding. So stick to the word class. Number 2, avoid using the to infinitive unless the word you've been given is a to infinitive itself. What do I mean? For example, you've been given like a word like smell, or maybe let's say the answer to that word that you've been given is smell. Don't write to smell, just write smell. If you write to smell and the word given is not a to infinitive, then obviously you do not score. So avoid using to infinitives when giving the answers to these words. The third one is avoid giving alternative answers. So you give one answer and then you give a second answer, and this second answer is not a synonym to the first answer. They don't mean the same thing. And then you end up with one answer being correct, while the second answer or the other answer is wrong. The wrong answer automatically cancels the correct answer. So do not give alternatives unless you are 100% sure that they are actually synonyms and both of them can score separately as correct answers to that given word. Then the last one is tense. If you're given a verb as a word, stick to the tense of the verb given. If it is in the past tense, your answer should also be in the past tense. If it is the ing, your answer should also be in the ing, like I had mentioned earlier. Please stick to the tense. If you're given a noun, the number should also be the same, should match for your answer or for the given word. If it's in plural, your answer should also be in plural. If it's in singular, your answer should also be in singular. So those are the common or the key questions that are asked in the comprehension section or question. But the most important thing, our learners, is read the passage as many times as possible. I advise you to go through the passage 3 times so that you're able to master the comprehension well, for you to be able to answer most of the questions that have been asked. Do not just read once. One time is not enough for you to master the comprehension, to understand it thoroughly, for you to answer. Don't begin your answers with because. It's good. Even if you don't echo the question, ensure that your answers are written using complete statements, not starting with because or but and so on. So that is the end of our comprehension, the first section of paper 2. Now, the second section is called excerpt or extract. Now, this is an extract from one of the compulsory set texts. For this year, and when I say this year, I mean the year 2023, it's going to be an excerpt from a play, the play A Doll's House. So what NEC does is that if they test a play this year, the following year, they are going to test the novel. Remember, we always have every year we always have 2 compulsory set books. One is a play, the other one is a novel. So if they are testing a play this year, next year, 2024, then it's going to be a novel in paper 2. Then the following year, 2025, will be a play in paper 2. So for example, this year, they are testing the play A Doll's House. Next year, it will be a novel, Fathers of Nations. The year after, 2025, it's going to be a play, The Samaritan. That is what I mean. They keep on alternating between the 2 compulsory texts. So our learners, an excerpt is an extract from one of the compulsory set texts, and that depends on the year that you're sitting for your KCSE. So we can't say that you are going to have an excerpt from this particular book. It keeps on changing depending on the year you are sitting for the national examination. So just like I said, it's a compulsory set book, so it means that you must do it. Remember, we don't have optional questions in our paper 2. So what kind of questions do you expect from the excerpt? The first question is place the excerpt in its immediate context. So if you're asked place the excerpt in its immediate context, you can never be asked what comes before or what comes after, because actually those 2 questions, what comes before and what comes after, is when now the question place the excerpt in its immediate context has been split, because it's the same thing. So our learners, if you're asked to place the excerpt in its immediate context, basically you're being asked to say what comes before the excerpt and what comes after the excerpt. That is what the examiner is asking you to do. So don't go very far away from where the excerpt has been extracted from, and everything counts. Be it actions of the characters, be it the words of the characters, be it how the characters actually reacted, their reactions. If it's a novel, whether it's a dialogue, so everything counts. Don't say because before that excerpt, because it was a dialogue, it does not count. Everything counts. So this question is happening during the excerpt. We are placing the excerpt in its immediate context. So what happens before? Just briefly, one statement state what is happening in the excerpt, and then tell us what happens immediately after the excerpt. The key word is immediately. Don't go very far away from the excerpt. Immediately after the excerpt, what happened? So this question tests on plot. How have you mastered the plot as a student? The examiner wants to know that to know if you can actually tell how the action or the events follow each other in the given text. The question that is also commonly tested, we are now at question number 2, is thematic concerns or issues, or what we basically call themes. So a theme is presented in form of a noun or a noun phrase. If you're illustrating a theme, it is advisable that you go 2 steps. So after identification, 2 other steps. So there is the identification part. For example, if you're saying using the book Fathers of Nations, and you want to talk about poor leadership. So you can see that there is the theme of poor leadership. Then you go ahead and explain how that theme has been brought out using your own words. And then now you pick something from the excerpt that clearly shows that there is poor leadership. So those are 3 steps, our learners. You identify, you explain, and then you illustrate. The illustration is to back up your explanation. Always ensure you do that so that you have a quality answer. The next question that usually comes is on styles. You can just be asked to identify and illustrate, which is just okay, or you can be asked to identify, illustrate, and state the effectiveness. So just follow what the question is asking you to do. Another way they test this question is explain. Explain the stylistic devices that are used in this excerpt. The moment you see the word explain means that you take the 3 steps. You identify, you illustrate, as well as state the effectiveness. For example, if it's dialogue, you say there is use of dialogue. And then you go ahead and say dialogue between maybe Dr. Afolabi and Fiona Mackenzie, and also quote a statement said by each of the 2. Then go ahead and say the effect of that particular dialogue that is in the excerpt. Is it to develop plot? Is it to bring out someone's character traits? And which trait is this? Always give enough information. Don't be casual when giving information. Don't be mean with information. The key to scoring paper 2 is giving enough or adequate information. Another question is on character traits. Character traits, just like we mentioned, there is a section our learners that we did purely on how to tackle excerpt questions. So you can check on what we said about character traits. We said you're supposed to give them using adjectives. Adjectives are words that are used to describe. And since we are describing a person, a character is a person, then you are supposed to use adjectives. Also, we have comprehension questions that are testing the excerpt. Apart from placing the excerpt in its immediate context, the examiner also wants to know, how have you mastered the plot of this book? So the comprehension questions can be either inside the excerpt, tying you to the excerpt, or elsewhere in the text. And the question will clearly tell you that, or ask you that, from elsewhere in the text. So the question will start from elsewhere in the text. It means that it's now giving you the freedom to leave the excerpt. But unless the question says that, from elsewhere in the text, then you are restricted to the given excerpt. Also, we have other questions. For example, I mentioned tone, mood, and attitude. It's also common in the excerpt question. You can be asked, what is the attitude of now I'm in Adol's house? What is the attitude of Dr. Rank towards his father? What is the attitude of Helma towards his wife, Nora? So you can be asked about attitude. What is the tone of Mrs. Lind? So it can also come in an excerpt. So that's another area that is mostly underrated, but you see, it's a common question that cuts across 3 sections of paper 2. Then we also have grammar questions, like I mentioned. The same applies to the rules apply to this question as well, just like I mentioned in the comprehension question. Then we have the role of characters. You can be asked, what is the role of Dr. Rank in this excerpt? What is the role of Nora in this excerpt? So it's up to you to know if Nora is being used to propel the story, if Nora is being used to develop the theme of place of women in the society. So mostly characters play 3 major roles. 1, develop theme. 2, develop plot. And 3, they help to bring out the character traits of other characters in the text. But then the last one we have is meaning of words. So like I said, that question comes in all the first three questions. Question 1, comprehension. The last question you get is the meaning of words. Question 2, excerpt. The last question you get is meaning of words. So it is important, our learners, that you practice. You practice how to answer this question, how to get synonyms for words given, how to explain if you want to go the explanation way without changing the word class. So we are not done. Remember, our learners, we said that we have 4 sections for paper 2. We have only done the first one, comprehension, and the second one, excerpt. So stay tuned in for the second part of this section, where we are going to look at the other 2 remaining sections, question 3 and question 4 of paper 2, English paper 2. Bye bye. See you in the other section.